Some memories haunt us. Others transform us. And this is a story that changed my life. My name is Mila. I live in a small town and work at a cozy coffee shop. Every morning, I make coffee, serve customers, and smile at familiar faces. My routine is simple, but I like it. In my free time, I study English. I started learning on my own because I always dreamed of speaking another language. I use apps, books, and videos. It's not easy, but I enjoy the challenge. One quiet afternoon, I decided to clean my bookshelf. It was full of old books, papers, and notebooks. Dust covered everything, making me sneeze as I worked. I found a stack of papers from high school, some old photos, and even a small box of letters. Then, I saw something that made me stop, a blue notebook. It looked old and worn. The cover had small scratches, and the corners of the pages were bent. I recognized it immediately. This is Lucas's notebook, I whispered to myself. Lucas was my best friend when I was younger. We used to spend hours together, talking, laughing, and sharing our dreams. I remember how we sat under the big tree in the park, imagining what our lives would be like when we grew up. But life changes. When we were teenagers, Lucas moved to another city. We promised to stay in touch, but as time passed, the calls and messages stopped. I hadn't thought about him in years. Now, here was his notebook in my hands. How did it end up with me? I couldn't remember. I opened it carefully. The first few pages were filled with his handwriting. Lucas loved to write. There were poems, lists of his favorite songs, and little drawings of stars and trees. As I flipped through the pages, I felt like I was going back in time. Then, I saw a page that made my heart skip a beat. At the top of the page, in big letters, was my name, Mila. Under my name, he had written a message. Mila, if you ever read this, I hope you understand what I did and why I did it. I wanted you to have something I never had. I stared at the words. My hands shook a little. What did he mean? What did he do? My mind was full of questions. I read the note again and again, trying to find a clue. But it didn't explain anything. It just left me with more questions. I closed the notebook and sat quietly for a moment. Memories of Lucas filled my mind, his smile, his jokes, the way he always encouraged me to follow my dreams. He was the kind of friend who made you feel important. That night, I couldn't sleep. The words from the notebook stayed in my head. What I did and why I did it, what could Lucas have done? And why didn't he tell me back then? The next morning, I made a decision. I need to find Lucas, I said to myself. But where do I start? We hadn't spoken in years. I didn't even know if he still lived in the same city. I decided to begin with the park where we used to meet. Maybe someone there would remember him, or I could find a clue about where he might be. As I walked to the park, I felt nervous. I didn't know what I would find, but I had to try. As I walked, memories of Lucas and our childhood played in my mind. I remembered how he always carried a small notebook with him, writing down his thoughts and dreams. I remembered the time he taught me to ride a bike and the day we made a pact to always support each other. Lucas was more than a friend, he was like family. But life had taken us in different directions. Now, I wondered, why did he leave that message for me? Did he want me to find it? Or was it just an accident? The park looked the same, but everything felt different. The big tree where we used to sit was still there, its branches reaching high into the sky. I walked to the bench under the tree and sat down. Where are you, Lucas? I whispered. I opened the notebook again, hoping to find more clues. I flipped through every page carefully, but there was nothing else about me. I realized I would need help to find Lucas. I didn't know where to begin, but I was determined. I'll start asking people, I thought. Maybe someone knows where he is. First, I walked to a woman who was sitting on the grass with her dog. She looked friendly. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. Excuse me, I said in English. Do you know someone named Lucas? The woman tilted her head, thinking for a moment. Lucas? She repeated. No, I'm sorry. I don't know him. That's okay. Thank you, I replied with a small smile. I turned and looked around the park. It was full of people, families, joggers, and groups of friends. Surely, someone here must have seen Lucas before. I walked to a man selling ice cream from a small cart. His cart had bright pictures of popsicles and cones, and the air smelled sweet. Hello, I said politely. Do you know Lucas? He used to come here a lot. The man shook his head. No, I don't know anyone named Lucas. Sorry. I thanked him and moved on. I stopped a few more people, a young couple, an older man walking his dog, and even a group of teenagers. Each time, I practiced my English. Do you know Lucas? Have you seen Lucas before? But the answer was always the same, no. As the afternoon passed, I began to feel discouraged. Maybe this wasn't the right place to find him anymore. Maybe Lucas didn't come to the park at all these days. But then, I remembered something about Lucas. He loved helping people. Even when we were kids, he always found ways to help. He would carry groceries for an elderly neighbor or lend his school books to a classmate who couldn't afford them. If Lucas still cared about helping others, maybe he was working somewhere where he could do that. It was just a thought, but it gave me hope. Before leaving the park, I decided to try one last time. Near the playground, I saw a woman sitting on a bench, reading a book. She looked calm and approachable. Excuse me, I said softly. I'm looking for someone named Lucas. Do you know him? The woman looked up and smiled. Lucas? I think I know who you're talking about. Does he have dark hair and glasses? My heart skipped a beat. Yes, that's him, I said, feeling excited. She nodded. I think he works at the community center downtown. They do a lot of charity work there, giving food to families and helping kids with school. I felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Thank you so much, I said, smiling brightly. You're welcome, she replied. Good luck finding him. I left the park with a new sense of purpose. Now I had a lead, a place to go. The community center wasn't far from here, and it sounded exactly like the kind of place Lucas would be. The walk to the community center was filled with anticipation. I practiced what I would say to Lucas in my mind. Why did you leave this notebook with me? What did you mean by those words? When I arrived, the building stood out immediately. It was large and yellow, with a big sign that read Helping Hands Community Center. There were people outside, carrying boxes of food and chatting with each other. The place was full of life and energy. I hesitated for a moment before walking in. The inside was just as busy as the outside. There were tables with volunteers packing supplies, kids sitting in a circle listening to a story, and a small office area where people were talking and organizing papers. I approached the front desk, where a woman was typing on a computer. She looked up and greeted me with a warm smile. "Hello, how can I help you?" she asked. "Hi," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm looking for someone named Lucas. Does he work here?" Her eyes lit up. "Oh, yes, Lucas. He's one of our team leaders. He's in the back, organizing supplies. Would you like me to call him for you?" I hesitated, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. "Yes, please," I said finally. The woman smiled again and walked down a hallway. I stayed near the desk, trying to calm my racing heart. After all these years, I was about to see Lucas again. What would I say? How would he react? I looked around the room, noticing the kindness and warmth in the people here. It felt like the perfect place for someone like Lucas, someone who always cared about helping others. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps. I turned, and there he was. Lucas stood in the doorway, holding a box of supplies. His dark hair was a little messy, and he was wearing glasses. For a moment, he looked at me with confusion, but then his expression changed. "Mila," he said, his voice full of surprise. I smiled nervously. "Hi, Lucas," I said softly. He set the box down on a nearby table and walked toward her, a smile spreading across his face. "It's been so long. What are you doing here?" Mila felt a rush of emotions: relief, nervousness, and curiosity. She held onto the strap of her bag as she spoke. "I was looking for you," she said honestly. Lucas raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Looking for me? Why?" She reached into her bag and pulled out the blue notebook. Holding it up, she said, "I found this." Lucas's eyes widened as he recognized it. He stood still for a moment, his gaze fixed on the notebook. "I haven't seen that in years," he said quietly. Mila opened the notebook to the page with the note. She placed it on the table between them and pointed to the words. "What did you mean by this?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with curiosity. Lucas sat down at the table, his expression thoughtful. "Let's sit," he said, motioning for her to join him. Mila sat across from him, watching as he looked at the notebook. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from their childhood. Finally, he sighed and began to speak. "Mila," he said, his voice calm but serious, "there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time." She leaned forward slightly, listening intently. "When we were younger," he continued, "I always admired you. You were strong, determined, and full of dreams. You talked about learning English, traveling the world, and building a better future for yourself." Mila felt a warmth in her chest. "I don't remember feeling strong back then," she said honestly. "I just remember struggling." Lucas shook his head. "You were stronger than you realized," he said. "But I also knew how hard things were for you. You worked after school, helped at home, and still tried to find time for your dreams. I saw how much you wanted to learn English, but I also knew you couldn't afford the classes." Mila's eyes widened as memories from those years came rushing back. She remembered longing to take English classes but feeling like it was impossible. Lucas continued, his voice quieter now. "I wanted to help. I got a part-time job after school, saving every penny I could. And when I had enough, I paid for your first English course." Mila gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. "You paid for my English classes?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas nodded. "Yes. I asked the school to send the registration papers to your house anonymously. I didn't want you to know it was from me. Her mind raced as she remembered the day she received the papers in the mail. She had thought it was a scholarship or some kind of mistake. But she had been so excited, so grateful. She looked at Lucas, her eyes filling with tears. Why didn't you tell me? Lucas smiled softly, his eyes warm. Because it wasn't about me, he said. It was about you. I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything. I just wanted you to have the chance to chase your dreams. Mila wiped her eyes, her heart full of emotion. You changed my life, Lucas, she said. Those classes gave me the foundation I needed. I don't think I would have had the courage to keep learning if it hadn't been for that first step. Lucas's smile grew wider. Hearing that makes it all worth it, he said. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation sinking in. Finally, Mila spoke again. Why did you write the note in the notebook, then? Why now? Lucas hesitated before answering. Back then, I didn't think it was important for you to know. But as time went on, I started to wonder if maybe you should. When I left the notebook at your house, I hoped that one day, you'd find it and understand. I guess I wanted you to know how proud I am of you. Mila felt a lump in her throat. Proud of me? Lucas nodded. Yes. Look at you. You're here, speaking English, chasing your dreams. I always knew you could do it, Mila. She smiled through her tears, feeling a mixture of gratitude and joy. Thank you, Lucas, she said. For everything. Lucas reached across the table and gently patted her hand. Helping you was the best thing I could have done. Your success is my happiness. Mila felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. The mystery of the notebook had been solved, but more importantly, she had reconnected with someone who believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. As they sat together, the buzz of the community center around them, Mila realized something. Lucas hadn't just changed her life, he had taught her a powerful lesson about kindness, generosity, and the impact of helping others. And for that, she would always be grateful. Mila sat quietly for a moment, looking at Lucas. The weight of his words was still sinking in. Everything she had achieved, everything she had learned, started because of him, because of his selfless act of kindness. She thought about all the late nights she had spent studying English, the books she had borrowed, the videos she had watched online. None of it would have been possible without that first step, without those classes Lucas had secretly paid for. Finally, she broke the silence. Thank you, Lucas, she said, her voice filled with emotion. You changed my life, and I never knew it. Lucas smiled, his expression warm and humble. You don't have to thank me, Mila, he said. I just wanted to see you succeed. And you did that on your own. Mila shook her head. No, I didn't. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Without you, I don't think I would have had the courage to start. Lucas looked down for a moment, his smile turning thoughtful. Maybe, he said, but the real credit goes to you. You took that opportunity and turned it into something amazing. That was all you. Mila's eyes wandered around the community center. Volunteers were still busy sorting supplies and helping families. The atmosphere was full of hope and positivity, and she couldn't help but feel inspired. Lucas, she said suddenly, what you're doing here, it's incredible. He followed her gaze, nodding. This place is special, he said. We try to give people a little hope, a little support. Sometimes, that's all they need to change their lives. Mila smiled. I think I understand that now. A little help can go a long way. Lucas looked at her curiously. Why do you say that? She took a deep breath. Because that's exactly what you did for me. You gave me a chance when I needed it most. And now, I want to do the same for someone else. Over the next few days, Mila couldn't stop thinking about the community center. Her conversation with Lucas had sparked something inside her, a desire to give back, to make a difference. She returned to the center a week later, this time with a purpose. Lucas was surprised but happy to see her. Mila! Back again, he said with a laugh. She smiled. Yes. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about helping others. And I want to help too. Lucas tilted his head. Are you serious? Completely, she replied. I've been learning English for a long time now, and I think I can use what I've learned to teach others. Maybe I can help kids here who want to learn but don't have the resources. Lucas's face lit up. That's a fantastic idea, Mila. We've been looking for someone to help with English lessons for the kids. I think they'll love you. Mila's first day as a volunteer was both exciting and nerve-wracking. The community center had set up a small classroom with a whiteboard and a few desks. About 10 children, ranging from 6 to 12 years old, were waiting for her, their eyes wide with curiosity. Hello, everyone, Mila said, smiling warmly. My name is Mila, and I'm here to teach you English. The children giggled and waved at her. Some were shy, but others were eager to speak. She started with the basics, greetings, simple words, and phrases they could use in daily life. Let's start with hello. Can everyone say, hello? Hello, the children shouted together, their voices filling the room. Mila felt a wave of joy. Teaching them reminded her of her own journey, of how every small step had made her stronger. She knew that for some of these kids, learning English could open doors they never thought possible. After the class, Lucas stopped by to check on her. How did it go? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Mila grinned. Better than I expected. The kids are amazing. He nodded. They're lucky to have you here. What you're doing is going to make a big difference in their lives. Mila looked at him, her expression thoughtful. I hope so, she said. But honestly, I think this is helping me as much as it's helping them. Lucas smiled knowingly. That's the thing about helping others. It always gives back more than you expect. As weeks turned into months, Mila became an integral part of the community center. She taught English classes twice a week, and the children loved her. They began to greet her with bright smiles and enthusiastic stories about the words and phrases they had learned. One day, after class, a little girl named Sophia stayed behind. She looked up at Mila with big, curious eyes. Miss Mila, she said shyly, why do you teach us English? Mila knelt down to meet Sophia's gaze. Because I believe in you, she said. I know you can do amazing things, and I want to help you get there. Sophia's face lit up. I want to be a teacher like you someday. Mila felt a lump in her throat. And you will be, she said with a smile. One evening, after a particularly busy day at the center, Mila and Lucas sat outside on a bench, watching the sunset. This place has changed me, Mila admitted. I thought I was coming here to give back, but I've gained so much more in return. Lucas nodded. That's the beauty of it, Mila. Helping others isn't just about them, it's about us too. It reminds us of what really matters. Mila looked at him, her heart full of gratitude. Thank you, Lucas, she said. For everything. For believing in me, for inspiring me, and for showing me that the best way to move forward is to give back. Lucas smiled. It's all about paying it forward. You're doing the same now, and I couldn't be prouder. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Mila felt a deep sense of peace. She had found a new purpose, one that connected her past, present, and future. Sometimes, she realized, the best way to thank someone isn't with words, it's with actions. By helping others, she was honoring the kindness Lucas had shown her all those years ago. Sometimes, Mila said softly, the best way to move forward is to give back. Lucas nodded, and together, they watched the world grow quiet, filled with the hope and possibility of new beginnings. Comprehension questions. 1. What did Lucas do for Mila in the past? A. Paid for her English course. B. Wrote her a letter. C. Bought her a gift. 2. Where was Lucas working when Mila found him? A. At a market. B. At a charity organization. C. At the library. Creative challenge. Write in the comments. What was the most important lesson from this story? If this story moved you, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel to learn more English with inspiring stories. Share this video with someone special who has changed your life.